Take their seats. Sorry, that took a little bit longer than I had anticipated. Thank you. Right, so what took the longest was the question of the amendment, which is being circulated to councillors, and the purpose of the paper is to reduce the current design brief, which was set at 30,000 seats. It was 25 permanent and 5 temporary, and this paper reduces that number to 25. So the argument that an amendment putting it at 30,000 was the opposite of what the paper was intended to achieve. However, I've taken legal advice on the matter, and so therefore I am accepting this as an amendment to the resolution. But I did want to advise why it took some time to persuade me that this was the appropriate course of action.
Well, speaking from history, I'm grateful you've accepted it as an amendment. So.
Thank you. And there are a number of issues that we're going to deal with in PX, and I'm not saying that Christchurch NZ will only present in PX, but I want their first presentation to be in PX because they can give us some intel in terms of the pipeline of events and give us a very good understanding of the potential of the multi-use arena in the context of what they know is potentially on the cards. So, and I'd like to give them that opportunity to present in PX for that reason. It is, yeah, and then I think we can still have a public session, but I just wanted them to be able to speak freely without fear of losing something. We've all seen what happens when people speak publicly about things that haven't been secured, and then we lose them. So anyway, so that's one thing. However, what I am very keen to do is to have our team up from B6 WAPAC and the Kortui team. So, and there they are, magically appeared at the end of the table. And Mary, did you want to just make some introductory comments so that councillors know who's here?
Great. So we've just invited the team up, and I'll leave it to them to introduce themselves. What I'd like to ask is if there's questions around pricing and overall costs, that we discuss that first in PX, because we don't want to jeopardise our commercial position, their commercial position, or the position with the supply chain. So this can be some general discussion. We will then go into PX and talk about costs and money impacts, and then come out of PX when we have confirmed that. But we don't want to have questions that impact on any party's commercial position in the public arena.
Thank you.
By means of introduction, Brian Hayes is Construction Director for B6 WAPAC, and Gilbert Gervais is the Technical Director for B6 WAPAC, and you know me. So we're open to questions from...
Right, so questions. Yanni.
Thank you. I mean, I just obviously really impressed with the expertise that the external parties are bringing to this project. I was just really trying to get a high level sense of any sort of the future of stadiums in terms of design, and also particularly in light of COVID. Like, have you seen any trends, or is there anything that's emerging that you think we should be aware of as we move through this process?
Yeah, certainly. I guess contact, how people arrive, ticketing, that sort of stuff in terms of specific COVID. I think there was a comment about crowd trends. I think you need to put that outside of COVID because it's a pandemic. People aren't allowed. It's a lawful action to not attend sporting events. I'm sure people would like to attend. But what we have noticed on the event of Sky Sport, Fox Sports, all those broadcasters, streaming, the content that people can get on their smart TVs is extreme. Get expert commentary, live, follow track players and all that sort of stuff. So when you put that product in front of somebody, and then, yes, you can buy a 100-inch TV with an add-on and do all that sort of stuff, it does focus people's attention. Oh, do I need to then get out of my home, get changed, get on public transport, get in my car, travel, pay for a ticket, go there, and then go home? When I can do it all from home, eat my own food, watch my own TV, and have my own bathroom. So that's the thing. I've generally seen that crowds, for that very reason, have reduced. And you probably have seen when you're watching games that crowd numbers. You take, for example, the AFL in Australia. It's a religion in Victoria, but they've been losing crowd numbers. So where you may fill out the MCG quite regularly, crowds are certainly down. And state governments have produced very large stadiums in the 60,000. You will not fill that very often. If they get the AFL grand final or semi-final, yes, that is issued. So the point is that as an organisation and as a community, you need to determine what is your sweet spot. What is your everyday running an event that you need to be targeting and is most beneficial for the region? But it's certainly, crowds have been getting smaller.
And I think that the fan experience is key to get people off their couch to come and watch a game or an event. And that's why I think the recommended scheme RT1 has that more enhanced fan experience with level 1 concourse.
I had actually somebody approach me and say that the Australian stadiums are different because you come in at a higher level and you're looking down, you can see the whole stadium. So, it's subjective, but it's sort of proven that a lot of the major stadiums do have a level 1 concourse.
And just the second question from me is, like, there was I don't know if you've seen the initial design that there was a trust set up called the Multi-Purpose Arena Trust, but certainly from what I've seen from stadiums around the world and from what they presented, is the idea of trying to get synergy with other projects, whether it's hotels, car parking buildings, office space. Their one, for example, had like the convention centre called the Exhibition Centre and had public transport. Have you been sort of open to considering any possible synergy with anything else happening in the space that might increase the ability to either save costs because we're not doing it somewhere else or to raise additional revenue?
Look, I think the projects you're looking at are multi-billion-dollar projects and are specific. I think there was a comment related to about the location of the site. It's been proven that many of the stadiums and arenas that we've done have aimed to move the arena closer to the CBD. That provides the benefit for businesses that are associated. So forget about the actual physical event, forget about it there. What you want to try to create is an experience from woe to go. So if people can move through the CBD, the businesses associated there, the restaurants, the bars and the like can go through there, they filter to the arena, they have a good experience from there, and then they go out and through there. So actually locating it close to already existing infrastructure is probably the best scenario. So moving it close to the CBD does that. You've got the bus interchange, you've got existing roads, you've got existing infrastructure, and the facilities are there. Hotels and that, yes, Adelaide Oval built a new hotel which was semi-attached to the venue. That was a corporate deal done by a private developer with agreement to the state. So we're not party to those sort of agreements. That would have to be something outside the project fund, because that's certainly outside our scope.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Sam?
Yeah, thank you. That was really useful. I'm just trying to get a steer, or I'd be grateful for a steer, given your experience, on the appropriate composition of permanent seating versus temporary seating. And so looking at the recommendation, there's 25,000 all up. How does that sit with, I guess, your experience and looking if we were to scale up RT1 to 30, ideally where would you like to see that sit? Could you give me some thoughts on that?
Again, it falls back to your sort of sweet spot and the event coverage. You can sort of see in the business case that there's only a specific number of cases where you would get above 20,000. You're certainly well covered for, as Caroline mentioned, for the concerts. You're covered for that. 36,000 is a very large concert even within the Australian market. Sorry to keep referring back to the Australian market. That's where I'm from. But yeah, it's the sweet spot. So I think you got that covered. Most of the events there. Look, we've done, I guess one of the things that we sort of brought in is that we've done a lot of regional stadiums. Our last job was North Queensland, Townsville. We've done 2 stadiums on the Gold Coast. The 25,000 mark is sort of our capacity. So the Gold Coast, if you have a look, they had a state of origin there, which was Robina, the home of the Titans. That's 25,000. That is probably a good size that, from a capital point of view, represents the best fit for a regional area.
So, sorry, do you mean 25 permanent?
25 is a total capacity. How that's made up is not a real matter. When you have a look at it, I guess the point of made is that when you look at the numbers in the business case, most of the events that cover the vast majority of the percentage is 20,000 and below. So I think if that's what you're seeing within the market, that needs to happen. And for example, North Queensland, we've done 25,000 permanent, but they don't fill that at all. None of the NRL games are getting up there. The Broncos versus North Queensland, they had 22,000 through there. Yes, they were lucky enough, and I'll put this out, that the state government actually paid quite a lot of money to get the state of origin up at North Queensland Stadium. Yes, that was a sellout, but yes, they don't get, their average crowd is sort of 15,000.
Right, and just the only other one is around, I guess, like forecast population growth. So what considerations sit behind a growing population? And obviously you've talked about the changing in technology, which may drive or offset that, but do you have a view on that?
Certainly, I guess the problem is you can only deal with a situation as you see fit. Populations do grow, but they also grow via diversity. So it doesn't necessarily tend that population growth means that you need a bigger arena because of the diversity. Do people want to go there for sporting events, or do they want to go for concerts, or there's a diverse mix. But look, population growth doesn't necessarily, yes, once you get to a major capital city and it represents, I guess, a major population over several millions, I think you need to get to that level of growth before you then start looking at any other major infrastructure.
I think also to add to that, the expected population growth, the life of the venue, and you can see the crowd capacities that are there at the moment for the events. There's only probably one or two events, or one event that's reaching max capacity. So what's the expected population growth over the next 20 to 50 years, and what impact that has? I think when you look at the average crowd capacities, the arena still is fit for purpose for its life.
And I don't think we answered one question you mentioned about upscaling. The point is about the capital cost really just comes down to sheer scale. The bigger you make, every square metre of area, concrete, steel, whatever, just adds to the cost. So you've just got to weigh that argument very carefully about how far, based on how much public money you want to commit versus the ongoing benefit of it. And like I said, I think for the area and it currently is, it probably does represent a fair investment to what you've got now. I think you have diminishing returns the larger you get.
Do you want to talk about the experience of, the drip line rather than the enclosed stadium? Because I guess you've got a lot of experience in the other one.
Yeah. Drip line is, for those who may not know, drip line is a term which is a theoretical line dropping vertically down from the edge of the roof. So if you're below the drip line, in theory, and this is all about perception, you're undercover. But I believe wind gets involved sometimes. So, you do get wet under the drip line and all that sort of stuff. Look, I think if you ask certain people, look, there is not too many venues in Australia that are covered. There is Marvel Stadium that's got a retractable roof. Apart from that, they're all drip line. And look, if you ask people, they would get a better experience if they were covered. I've certainly been to see Australia get flogged by the All Blacks at Marvel Stadium, and the roof was closed because it was raining. It certainly represented a much better game than if it was downpour. So I think everybody experienced a much better, and certainly we were much more comfortable not being in the rain.
Yeah, sorry.
And will there be an opportunity, probably in PX, to just ask around some
Yeah,
of the
some
financials of
financials,
sorting?
yeah. So all the financial questions we'll deal with there. Has anyone else got some questions? No? Okay, look, thank you very much for